Grease was still drying on my hands when I stepped through the door. I'd just pulled a 12-hour shift at the shop, came home smelling like oil and rubber, and all I wanted was a cold beer and 5 minutes of silence. But instead, I got Hannah, standing in the kitchen in her pressed blue manager uniform, hair done like she was heading to a damn award show. She didn't say hi, didn't ask how work was. She slid a thick sealed folder across the table and said, flat as concrete, "My uncle died. I inherited his whole estate. I want a divorce. Be out by tonight." I stood there, still in my boots, staring at her. "What?" She didn't blink. "It's all in there. I want it over today." I looked down at the folder. I didn't even open it right away. I just kept thinking, this had to be a joke, a sick one. After 7 years together, after everything we'd built, I peeled the flap open. Inside were neatly printed divorce papers. She already had a lawyer. Everything was clean, fast, final. She was keeping the house, the bank accounts, even my damn tools. I looked up. "Are you serious?" She didn't answer. Then, from the hallway, I heard footsteps. 2 figures stepped into the doorway like bouncers at a club. Brett and Lane, her twin cousins, grinning like they were proud of this crap. Brett folded his arms and leaned against the doorframe. "She doesn't need you anymore." Lane chuckled. And Hannah? She didn't say a word to disagree. That's when it hit me. This wasn't some heat-of-the-moment fight. It was a setup, a straight ambush. Quick note. Before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? I closed the folder slowly and said, "You planned this." She looked away like that'd make it better. 7 years. I'd watched her hustle through night classes, helped her pitch that retail startup from our garage, paid rent when she couldn't, fixed her car more times than I could count. And this was how it ended, like a business deal? I pulled out a chair, sat down, and wiped my hands with a dirty rag from my back pocket. "You're really doing this?" Hannah nodded, arms crossed, lips tight. Behind her, Brett cracked his knuckles like he was just dying to make it physical. I stood up slow. No yelling, no pleading, just one sentence. "You're gonna regret how you did this." None of them moved. I walked past them, grease still on my palms, and went to pack what little I still owned. I went straight to the bedroom and grabbed a duffel bag from under the bed. Not even mine, technically. Hannah used it for gym stuff. But I didn't care. I shoved in what little I could grab. A couple shirts, my father's old watch from the top drawer, social security card, birth certificate. That was about it. I didn't bother with socks. The dresser drawers were half empty already. I hadn't noticed until then. Some of my stuff was gone before I got home. The safe was open too. Empty. I'd kept cash in there, just over $1,000 for emergencies. Gone. I checked the bank app on my phone. Balance, zero, not even a pending transaction. Just wiped. My name had already been scrubbed from the utilities. I called the power company, and the guy said, "We don't have you listed." I checked the lease. My signature had been scratched out, replaced with hers, and a date from 3 weeks ago. They'd prepped this. Down to the last damn line. I zipped the bag and walked out without saying a word. Hannah followed me down the hall like she was supervising a prisoner transfer. "That bag's mine too, by the way," she snapped. "You didn't buy it." I stopped at the door, looked back at her. "You want the shirts off my back too?" She crossed her arms and looked past me like I wasn't even in the room. Then Brett and Lane stepped in from the porch, blocking the stairs like goons in a bad movie. "You're not taking anything that doesn't belong to you," Lane said. Brett added, "House rules change, man. You don't live here anymore." I kept walking, didn't even brush against them, just stepped down one stair. Then Brett grabbed my arm, hard. Before I could say a word, Lane yanked the bag off my shoulder. "Let go," I said, calm but firm. "Make me," Brett grinned. And then they shoved me, hard. I flew down the last 3 porch steps and hit the gravel hard enough to tear my jeans at the knee. Scraped my palms open trying to catch myself. They didn't stop. Brett came down and kicked the bag toward the driveway. "Take your crap and go." I got to my feet slowly, dust and blood on my hands. My ribs were screaming from how I landed. Hannah stood at the top of the steps, not scared, not sad, just cold. "This could have been civil," she said. I laughed once, Not because it was funny, because it was pathetic. You cleared the bank account, I said. Took the house, took the car. You've been planning this behind my back for months. You think this is civil? She didn't flinch. I just want to move on. Yeah, I said. You will, and you'll regret how you did it. Brett snorted. You gonna cry now? No. I looked each of them dead in the eye. I'm gonna disappear. Lane raised an eyebrow. Is that a threat? It's a promise, I said. I picked up my bag and walked down the gravel drive, slow, limping. No one followed. They figured they won. I didn't even turn around, just kept walking until I hit the corner, turned down the main road, and disappeared into the night like I never lived there in the first place. A few cars passed, headlights catching the blood on my hand and the dirt on my jeans. No one stopped. I didn't care. I wasn't looking for help. I needed a place to think, to breathe. But I'll tell you what stuck with me most. None of them asked why. Not once. Not even fake curiosity. They didn't want the truth. They just wanted me gone. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of watching me beg. I pressed the crosswalk button and waited, hands bleeding, ribs aching, bag strap digging into my shoulder. But my mind was clearer than it had been in years. I walked 3 miles before I found the motel. Neon sign buzzing over a cracked parking lot, the kind of place where no one asked questions. Room smelled like bleach and cigarettes, but the lock worked and the lights turned on. That was enough. I dropped the bag by the door and sat on the edge of the bed. It creaked under me. Springs old enough to remember the Clinton years. Silence. No footsteps upstairs, no TV through the walls, just me and the low hum of the freeway outside. I looked down at my hands. Dried blood, dirt under my nails. I didn't rush to clean it off. For the first time in years, I wasn't mad. I wasn't scared either. I was awake. I pulled my phone from my pocket, hit the hotspot, then opened the laptop I kept buried in the duffel. Not the one from the house. That one stayed on Hannah's desk. This one had no stickers, no branding, just black matte plastic. Looked cheap on purpose. I typed in the password and waited. Hannah thought I was just a mechanic with a GED and a busted back from working too many lifts. She had no clue who I was before we met. Back in 2010, I helped launch a rural utility grid software company with a friend from tech school. We specialized in smart meter integration for counties that couldn't afford big-name vendors. Quiet work, steady contracts. Not flashy, but profitable. I sold my share 4 years before I met Hannah. NDA signed, earnings off the books. I invested every cent, real estate in states with low taxes, mid-sized tech startups no one had heard of. A few off-grid properties tucked in places you couldn't find without coordinates. I never told her. Not because I didn't trust her. At first I did. But I learned quick who she paid attention to, and who she didn't. I clicked into my portfolio dashboard. The numbers stared back at me. 7 figures, multiple accounts, spread across 5 institutions, all still intact. While she was burning bridges, she thought she was taking the ground under my feet. Truth was, I'd never been standing on hers. I leaned back, exhaled slow, and stared at the cracked ceiling tiles. She'd cleared out my name, erased me from our life like I'd never existed. But the version of me she threw out, that was just the shell. She never even knew the real one. I stood, walked to the mirror, bolted to the wall. Fluorescent light flickered above it. My face looked older than I remembered, blood on my chin. Eyes like I hadn't slept in years. But under all that, still me. Still the one who built something from nothing. And they had no idea what I was about to do next. Next morning, I got in touch with Curtis, guy I went to trade school with, now a lawyer over in Nashville. We'd pulled each other out of enough messes over the years. I called in one of the few favors I had left. We met at a diner off I-40, corner booth, 2 coffees. He showed up in a wrinkled blazer and old jeans, same as always. "What kind of trouble you in?" he asked, no small talk. I pulled the flash drive from my coat pocket and slid it across the table. "Not trouble, opportunity." He popped it into his laptop, eyebrows rising as he scrolled through the files. "These are property documents," he said. "Some of these are old. Look at the one marked trust revision, April." I tapped the screen. Hannah's uncle signed it 2 months before he died. I was named backup trustee. Curtis paused, then looked at me. You serious? Dead serious. You didn't tell her? She didn't ask. He smirked. All right, what do you want to do? Her cousins, Brett and Lane, are building a guest lodge on that land. I saw the blueprints in her folder. They already broke ground. But the trust was never dissolved legally. They never had authority. Curtis leaned back. Jesus. They're developing on land I technically manage, without permits, no zoning, no environmental clearance, just muscle and money. He started typing fast. I'll file an emergency injunction. County clerk's office can issue it by Thursday if we move now. Do it. And you want it delivered on site? Oh yeah, I said, right in the middle of their little empire. 3 days later, I parked half a block down from the property and waited. Sheriff's SUV pulled up right on time. Deputy got out, papers in hand, walked up to the construction site like he was delivering pizza. A group of workers in hard hats froze when they saw him. Brett came storming out of a trailer, red in the face. Lane followed, phone in hand, probably trying to reach someone to fix it. Didn't matter. The deputy handed over the injunction and pointed at the machinery. Work stopped cold. Brett shouted something I couldn't hear. Lane kicked a bucket into the dirt. Pure tantrum energy. I sat there in my truck, sipping black coffee. Window cracked just enough to hear the silence settle over the site. By 5 that evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Yeah. It was Hannah. What the hell did you do? Me? I said, real calm. I did my job. You blindsided us? No, I said. You just weren't paying attention. There was a pause. Her voice dropped. Why now? I let that hang in the air a few seconds. Then I said, I've always been in the room, Hannah. You just never looked. She didn't respond. I ended the call. I sat in that truck for another half hour, watching them try to figure out what hit them. They weren't just stunned, they were exposed, and I wasn't done. After the phone call with Hannah, I didn't go back to the motel. I drove straight to the edge of town, to a place most people forget exists unless they've missed 3 payments. My old storage unit was at the end of the last row, Unit 317. Lock was rusted, numbers faded, but the key still worked. I hadn't opened that door in years. Inside, the air was stale, thick with dust and cardboard. Boxes stacked 6 high, mismatched labels, old electronics, and folders from a lifetime ago. I knew exactly what I was looking for. I just didn't know where the hell it was buried. I pulled the chain light and started digging. Back when Hannah first started her little retail brand, handmade decor, earthy packaging, Pinterest bait, I'd helped her with the logistics. She had ideas, sure, but no patience for paperwork. I'd handled the filings, licensing, the LLC creation. All of it. She barely glanced at a single form. And deep in that mess, under an old box of tax returns and receipts from my first car, I found it. A thin manila folder labeled Brand IP, Final. I opened it. There it was. U.S. trademark certificate, registered in my name, filed under a consulting firm I'd created back then just to keep it neat. Hannah never followed up, never transferred ownership. She just assumed it was hers because her name was on the candle labels. But I'd paid the fees. I'd filed the application. I held the rights. Legally, her entire brand existed under a name she didn't even own. I scanned the papers into my laptop right there on the concrete floor, back aching, fingers shaking from adrenaline. Then, I called in a favor from an old buddy. Used to run back-end systems for an e-commerce takedown group. Together, we launched the Hammer. Through a shell company I'd set up years ago, we issued takedown notices to every one of her retail distributors, major chains, niche boutiques, online platforms. Anywhere her brand showed up, they got served. Copyright violation, trademark infringement, legal threat. Most didn't wait. They pulled everything within 48 hours. Her store pages went offline. Inventory disappeared from shelves. Social media went quiet. She was erased faster than she erased me. I didn't brag, didn't post, didn't warn her. I just waited. The voicemail came the next night. Her voice was cracked, frantic. I don't understand what's happening. Everything's getting pulled. I think it's a mistake. Can we talk? She didn't yell, didn't accuse. She was scared. I stared at the screen while it played. watching the seconds tick down. Then I hit delete. She wanted me invisible, so I gave her exactly that. And I still wasn't done. After I deleted the voicemail, I packed up the laptop and headed straight to the office I'd kept under a dummy name just outside Knoxville. Small place, second floor above a title company, bare walls, a desk, 2 chairs, and a coffee machine that hadn't worked since April. But it was mine, and it was clean. Curtis met me there the next morning, briefcase in one hand, sleeves rolled up like he was back in court. Danny came in right behind him, blazer, jeans, black boots. She looked at the whiteboard, the files on the table, and nodded once. "This is surgical," she said. "You documented everything? Every change, every filing, every original signature," I said. We got to work. Curtis mapped out the land trust and the Halted Lodge project. The injunction had frozen their contractors. Their permits were under review now. Zoning board wasn't happy about the lack of notice or environmental checks. Danny opened a spreadsheet that linked the licensing trails. Hannah had transferred the business under her name for tax purposes 2 years ago. But the trademark, the design rights, and the product formulations, still mine. "No wonder she's panicking," Danny said. "She's got a brand with no legal identity." "And no shelf space," I added. "She's got money, though," Curtis warned. "Probably lawyers, too." "Doesn't matter," I said. "We're not breaking anything. We're just enforcing what's already ours." By the third day, it was airtight. Every piece of her business and her cousin's lodge was legally stalled, frozen in midair like a broken elevator. Then Mason showed up. I heard the knock first, polite, fake. I opened the door, and there he was in his ironed khakis and new haircut, acting like this was a reunion. "Hey man," he said, offering a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Can we talk?" I stepped aside. "You got 5 minutes." He walked in, looked around like he was trying to figure out how far gone I was. "Look, she's overwhelmed. Things move fast. Nobody meant for it to go like this." I pointed at the wall behind him, giant legal map taped up, with every property, brand asset, and filing number circled in red ink. Mason turned slowly, took it all in. "She said you wouldn't fight back," he muttered. "She was wrong," I said. He turned to me, voice low. "What do you want?" I looked him dead in the eye. "Everything that was mine." He opened his mouth like he had more to say, but didn't. Just nodded once, jaw tight, and walked out. Didn't even close the door behind him. That same week, the cracks started spreading. Word got out that the lodge project had no clear title holder. 2 of the lead investors pulled out, citing unresolved ownership concerns. Then a press leak dropped. Former CEO loses trademark control in silent partner dispute. That's all it took. Endorsements started fading. Hannah's partnerships backed off, one by one. Brands don't like risk. They hate legal fog even more. By Friday, her team pulled all scheduled content. Her cousin Brett posted a bitter rant on Instagram, blamed legal parasites and disloyal cowards. I screenshotted it, saved it in a folder titled Weak Moments. That night, I sat in the office alone, lights off, map glowing in the dark from the parking lot, sign across the street. This wasn't revenge, it was reclamation. Next morning, I got a text from an unknown number. "Can we meet? Just talk, please." 3 hours later, I walked into Mulligan's Diner on Maple and 5th, same spot we used to go to on Friday nights, back when we were broke and still pretending we liked each other. They were already sitting in a booth by the window. Brett had his arms stretched across the backrest like he owned the damn place. Lane was nursing a coffee, head down, shoulders stiff. Hannah sat across from them, no makeup, eyes hollow. Looked like she hadn't slept in days. I didn't say a word, just slid into the booth across from them and let the silence do the talking. Brett broke it first. "Man, you've had your fun, huh?" He gave me that fake grin like we were old buddies catching up. Hell of a way to say goodbye. I looked at him. "You got something worth saying? Or are you just here to waste oxygen?" That shut him up. Lane didn't even look at me, just kept spinning his spoon in the cup like it might turn into an escape hatch. Hannah cleared her throat. "Thank you for coming." I didn't answer. She straightened a folded sheet of paper in front of her, kept her hands on it like it might float away. I didn't know you'd do all this, she said quietly. I leaned forward just slightly. You didn't know me at all. She blinked but didn't argue. I nodded toward the paper. That it? She slid it across the table. It's a written apology and public acknowledgement of your role in the company. I'll post it with legal confirmation. You'll be recognized in every file. I picked it up, read it. She didn't dodge anything in it. She took responsibility, line by line. It was lawyer-approved, tight, public. I folded it once and slipped it into my jacket. It's a start, Brett scoffed. So what now? You ride off into the sunset, build your empire, write a book? I didn't even look at him. Hannah said, You really never told me what you did before we met. No, I said, because you never asked. She looked down at her coffee like it could undo the last 6 months. I stood up. You wanted to erase me. Now you get to live knowing you couldn't. Lane finally spoke. We didn't think it'd get this far. It didn't get this far, I said. You brought it here. None of them said anything after that. I left a 10 on the table and walked out the door. The sky was clear, wind sharp. I didn't feel rage or victory or anything close to pain. Just calm, like breathing without weight. I drove straight from the diner to the print office. The ad had already gone to layout, final copy locked, no edits. It ran 2 weeks later, right in the middle of the annual Modern Living Fall issue, the one Hannah used to highlight every year on her social pages. Center spread. Glossy as hell. Big bold letters at the top. Thank you for reminding me who I am. And right underneath, Forge and Rise Consulting, Restoration After Betrayal. No story, no sob pitch, just the name, the message, and a contact line. That was enough. Inquiries flooded in within 24 hours. Emails, DMs, LinkedIn messages, even handwritten letters. Most weren't just business. They were personal. People who'd been tossed aside by their partners, cut out of family businesses, scammed by people they trusted. Survivors of silence. People who thought they were crazy until someone finally said, Yeah, me too. I built out the first few consulting cases fast. Licensing recovery, contract reversals, quiet cleanup jobs for folks who wanted their name back, legally and mentally. Every success added weight to my side of the scale. Meanwhile, Hannah spiraled. She posted a tearful video 2 Mondays after the ad dropped. Makeup free, soft piano music in the background. She talked about betrayal, about regret, about learning lessons the hard way. Her voice cracked in the second minute. Right on cue. She never said my name. Not once. Didn't matter. The internet was faster than her tears. Commenters weren't buying it. One wrote, Is this the same woman who iced out her business partner and kicked him out of their house overnight? That one got pinned. Then came the articles. Bloggers, journals, a few trade mags picked it up. The headlines were quiet knives. Brand maven faces, legal disputes over founding rights. Design darling loses grip on trademark. Influencer or imposter. I never said a word. Never gave a quote. Never posted a thing. Let the silence speak louder. Her brand became radioactive. No endorsements, no press. Collaborations ghosted. Her cousins tried to relaunch the Lodge project under a different name. Didn't work. Too much noise in the system now. Investors don't like tangled stories. They like clean winners. And I wasn't playing defense anymore. I was building something louder than revenge, something that would outlast all of them. 6 months later, I walked through the front door of the house they kicked me out of. This time, I had the key. Court order came through the week before. Property ownership transferred back to me under the terms of the trust. Brett and Lane never had the right to build. Hannah had no legal claim to stay. They didn't fight it, not publicly anyway. I paid a moving crew to handle her stuff, boxed and labeled, shipped wherever she wanted. I didn't touch a single thing. When I stepped inside, the air was still. Not cold, just hollow. Like the place knew it was in between lives. Same couch, same curtains, same crack in the tile I offered to fix 3 years ago. But she said she'd rather hire someone with taste. I walked through each room, slow. No anger, no nostalgia either. Just clean steps. The bedroom still had the same smell. lavender and hairspray. Her dresser was gone, but the mark in the carpet was still there. In the kitchen, there was a single piece of paper left on the counter. Folded twice, my name in her handwriting. I opened it. I thought this place would save me. Turns out you were the only one who did. No signature, no phone number, just that. I set it back down. Didn't pocket it, didn't crumple it either. I didn't come back for closure, I came back with plans. The land had potential, not just the house, but the lot behind it, the barn, the space they were going to turn into that overpriced guest lodge. I had a better idea. 3 weeks later, demo crews rolled in, cleared the rot, stripped the interiors, left the shell standing. We kept the bones, threw out the ego. Then came the builders, the electricians, the grant writers, the counselors, and the people, divorced dads, women who lost everything in business splits, former business partners, siblings, old friends who got shoved to the curb when they stopped being useful. I brought them in with one rule: you leave the shame at the door. We called it the Forge, not a rehab center, not a grief group, a rebuilding ground, legal aid, business consulting, therapy, housing transition support. Everything I wish I'd had when I got dragged down those porch steps. We opened quietly, no press, just word of mouth. But the stories traveled fast, and every time someone asked, "Why'd you do this?" I told them the truth, because I know what it feels like to be erased, because I know what it means to come back without bitterness, because some people rebuild louder than they were ever broken. I didn't stay long that first day after the move, just long enough to walk the hallways once, breathe in the empty air, and lock the door behind me. There was nothing left for me inside that house, but what came next, that was mine. A year to the day after she kicked me out, I stood on a small stage inside a rented conference room at the Chattanooga Business Recovery Summit. No spotlight, no big screens, just a mic, a room full of chairs, and people who'd lived through the same kind of silence I had. Alyssa sat in the front row, rocking our daughter gently in her arms. She smiled at me, like she already knew every word. I adjusted the mic, looked out at the room. No suit jacket, just sleeves rolled up. Wedding ring visible, voice steady. "I'm not here to give a speech," I started. "I'm just here to tell you what happened." I told them everything. The folder on the table, the porch steps, the motel room. Not with spite, with clarity. They thought I was disposable, I said. But I was just dormant. Now I help others rebuild. No claps, not at first. Then one, then two. Then the whole room, not loud, but lasting. Afterward, a woman with a laptop and sharp eyes came up to me near the back of the room. "What would you say to someone who's been betrayed and still feels stuck?" I didn't pause. "Don't shout," I said. "Don't fight. Just build until they can't ignore you anymore." She typed it out without saying a word. I turned back to see Alyssa standing, our daughter now asleep on her chest. And for the first time since all this started, I felt done. Not defeated, not bitter, done. Because some endings don't need fire, just a foundation.